Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to 5 and 9 in a one-stop co-op shop, where I go over 5 things you need to know about a game in about 9 minutes. Today I'm taking a look at Now or Never from Ryan Lockett Red Raven Games. This is the third in a trilogy of Euro-style storybook games that began with Above and Below, continued with Near and Far, and now we have Now or Never. Near and Far has been sitting on that shelf the entire time I've been doing reviews. I love Near and Far. So that is going to color this review of Now and Never. And I'm going to give you my opinion on not only Now and Never itself as a game, but how it compares to Near and Far. So I wanted to give everybody a flag for that. Let's get to it. Disclaimer, I was provided with a review copy for this game. My number 5 is player count. So every player is going to have their own personal board. They're going to have this building board, and they're going to have the buildings laid out in this grid that'll eventually go on this board. You got your main board, you got your common resource area, you have area for decks of cards and for the specialist and so many other things. It is a physically imposing task just to sit 4 players around the table. And when you get into the game, I really feel like 4 players is just struggling to be fun for people as they wait for everybody else's turn. There's very little to do on other people's turns. So I can't recommend this game at 4 at all. 3, also a struggle, leaning con for me. My ideal experience is 2. I really enjoy this game at 2. There's enough to do. There's enough back and forth, etc. Solo was pretty good. That's a mix for me. So you have this bot. The bot is very easy to operate. It just, you play and it takes something away from the board. Maybe the thing that you want, maybe not. It's kind of like the viticulture bot, but the viticulture bot had a lot of bite to it. It really found a way to insist itself, and it really challenged you, created huge constraints. This game, not so much. The constraints are fairly easy to deal with. You get one thing taken away, shift strategy, do something else. I didn't feel personally challenged by the bot. However, what I can say is, a lot of people don't play this for that biting challenge. They just want to be able to play a fun Euro game with some story elements, and the bot does unlock that. My number 4 is a mix, which is the story integration. And I'm coming at this, as I said, as a fan of Near and Far. Above and Below, I felt like was 2 separate games. Your story game and your Euro game, they kind of existed parallel to each other. I felt Near and Far made a lot of strides integrating the story elements with the board play. They happened simultaneously. They felt more organically connected. Here, it's the same or very similar in terms of going to spaces and reading from the book. So that's good. However, my issue is that the mechanical experience is much more involved here in Now and Never. So it kind of stood out that the story elements didn't really develop off of that. So you had the net effect of depressing the impact of the story. You can play this entire game without visiting a lot of the areas, not having a lot of adventures, and you're still going to get a lot of the experience. Also, the story plays out across 6 chapters. The first 3 chapters are on the top board, and the final 3 chapters are on the underground board, which you would flip over. I felt like the board didn't change enough. So there was a lot of opportunity with tiles like this. You'd flip them over, or maybe they'd be destroyed, or the land would change a little bit. It's really 3 games of Now or Never with a slightly different paragraphs to read, and then 3 games on the other side. I thought there was a missed opportunity there too. My number 3 is a pro, which is the leveling system. So you start off with some capabilities right there in terms of combat, and you have some slots for utilities. As you go on, you could spend experience currency in order to skill up, or you can pursue an alternative path and buy your upgrades. And you can mix and match. You have different options. You can go combat heavy, story heavy, movement heavy. For a Euro game, I thought that was very well done. Your character definitely feels different by the end. And also the specialist, you get your beginning ones, but you have opportunity to get new ones and shift this a little bit. You can use other people's specialists. The hero play, I thought, was excellent here. The best of the 3 games. My number 2 is a mix, which is the building aspect. So just it's fun. I mean, it's mostly pro in the sense that you can choose your path. Once you begin, you have to kind of map out where you're going. It feels a little bit geometric, but by the time you end, you have all your buildings available to you, and it's kind of fun picking the right path, using powers that can kind of rearrange the things. That's all fine. Setting up the balance between what generates resources and what all generates points. How do the villagers coordinate with that? That's actually really cool. My con here is that across my 6 plays, even though I got there slightly differently, I ended up in similar spaces using the same tiles to score points. Mapping my points off of the board across 6 games. It's like I got the same amount of points generated, the same amount of resources, or similar, not exactly the same. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more variety and different ways to proceed built in here. My number 1 is a mix. It is the overall resource flow of the game. And it might be a pro had I not played Near and Far, so I'm going to give people a flag right away. Okay, so the basic flow of the game. You have your buildings and villagers. They're going to generate resources. The resources are going to grow, and then you're going to spend them on coins, and you're going to use the coins to buy more buildings. And it just that flow of resources. Everything else, story and adventures and monster killing, all that stuff comes down to that basic flow. That's generally cool. I just felt like Near and Far offered you a similar kind of flow, but in a tighter, shorter experience. You're going to hear that this game is pretty long. My 2-player games of this lasted 2 hours plus, maybe a little bit shorter by the 6th game, but these were pretty big experiences. 6 rounds, a lot to get through. Long games are not bad. The issue is what you're doing in round 6 significantly different than in round 1, like in a Terraforming Mars or an Ark Nova. Those last rounds feel a lot different, a lot more combos than in the first rounds. This game reminded me a bit more of a Through the Ages type game, where you're basically doing the same things, but the numbers are bigger. First couple of rounds, you get a couple of resources, change them. Last round, you get a bunch more resources, change them. Does it really change? I have a feeling that some players are going to be turned off by the fact that after 2 hours, the numbers change. There are other players that are going to be excited because by the time you get there, your building will be finished and you're working on that. So just wanted to map that out for you. It depends on what type of gamer you are, especially on the Euro end. As I've tried to make clear throughout the entire review, my assessment of Now or Never comes in the context of having played Above and Below and Near and Far. So Near and Far continues to be my favorite game that marries solid Euro mechanisms and that ongoing story that unfolds paragraph by paragraph. Now or Never offers the same, but it offers it in that graduated mechanical experience that I felt kind of outstrips the story a little bit. So in terms of that balance, we're going to prefer Near and Far. There's also going to be some gamers who ask the question, is the time investment worth it? Is that 6th round in particular, is that going to deliver that satisfying punch that puts a cap on 1.5 hours, 2 hours plus if you're playing a high player count game? Those are open questions that I invite people to explore for themselves. For me, even though I'm going to prefer Near and Far, I still value having the continued experience. This game still charms the pants off me in terms of the story that it presents and, walking around and everything. So at the end of the day, I'm going to keep it in my collection. It's going to get a good rating from me. It's going to be right below Near and Far if you see future videos. So that was Now or Never from Ryan Lockett. I hope you enjoyed that review. This is Jace reminding you, if you change your mind, you can change the world, people. So until next time, later, everybody.